What's going on, my good people? This your boy Lap Up the Entertainer, here to bring you some action between PVAMU and Southern University. This is Southern's homecoming. I heard some mixed reviews about this battle, so I do not know what to expect. I did hear that they got rained on, so can't wait to see what that looks like for them in the fifth quarter. But I'm excited to bring you the action, okay? I was trying to do some digging. I was only able to capture zero quarter and fifth quarter. Could not find halftime footage. I found Southern's halftime footage, but I did not find PVAMU's halftime footage. So by default, we won't be grading halftime, okay? So we be strictly grading off of zero and fifth quarter, okay? So with that being said, hey, if whoever gets the upper hand in these battles is going to be the band who's going to win. Okay, so but I do not know what to expect from either band. Got a chance to see PVAMU and at the State Fair Classic. So if you want to see that battle, please click on the link above. I got a chance to see Southern as well when it went against Jackson State at the Boombox Classic. So if you want to see that battle, please click on that link above. Okay. So both bands got these records, and these records based off of them going to the SWAC tier list. So I'll be collecting data from each battle that I can grade from every band in the SWAC, Meek, and the Seek, and I have different divisions of the tier list to calculate who was the best band of that year. Okay, so it can vary on per band. I have different categories, so it's just not one tier list. It's multiple tier lists in one, but it's just my honest opinion, okay? So if you like that type of content, please consider liking and subscribing, okay? So we are grading song selection, power, articulation, arrangement, and cleanness. Maximum points they can make all together in zero quarter is 45, okay? So usually in zero quarter, bands play spirit songs. So if a band plays a spirit song, it can kind of hurt them just a tad bit. I would want them to utilize their book more often. Southern has a humongous book, so I don't really expect them to play any spirit songs, not unless the football team is coming out. I don't know what that looks like for PVAMU, but you get my point. But I'm very excited to see what they're going to bring. All right? So with that being said, before we get into the battle, I would like to let y'all know we're not grading how strong an arrangement is. A lot of people get that confused and don't understand the concept of that. I'm not grading how strong an arrangement is. I'm grading the execution of the arrangement. Okay? Not every band has a strong pen game. Okay? So some people be saying that a certain band lost because their pen game is not there. That's not based off the band. That's based off the band directors. Okay? So, I feel as if, let's make it fair for both bands. Okay? So I just wanted to throw that out there so y'all won't get confused on that and think that's the narrative on who should win the battle. No, I'm not grading that. I'm grading the execution of the song. Okay? And we're doing a cumulative grade as well. We're not just grading zero and say that's the band that won. We're grading overall. So zero and fifth is going to be combined total score grade. Okay? So whoever was the strongest wins. So with that being said, I'm going to shut up. Let's get into the action. Like Southern's first. Alright, let's get that a grade. I know Fairview's marching in, but I still was able to catch what I need to hear from Southern. But sound selection's a 5, power is a 10, articulation is 10, arrangement's 10, cleanness is a 10. They got a 45. Good job, Southern. Shout out for some cleanness. They sounded actually very clean. They sounded very clean. I enjoyed that from them. They sounded really good. Alright, moving on. So it's gonna go again. Southern, ladies and gentlemen. Man, Southern with that power. Man. Oh, man. Southern. They're one Super Saiyan in this thing. Oh, man, you got to watch out for Southern, man. Got to watch out for them. They cranking up over there, bruh. Ooh, I can't wait for PV to get in the stands. That's all I gotta say. Ooh, I can't wait for PV to get in the stands so I can see what they're gonna pull. That's all I gotta say. PV gonna have to play catch up because Southern's up by 2 right now. Southern's again. Sound good. Southern ladies. There was Super Saiyan Blue God in this thing. Man, they are on a roll today, boy. They are on a roll today. Man, Southern on it. SU's on it. Oh, man, PVAMU. I can't wait to hear what you got it going on, man. They 3 in, bruh. They 3 in. Come on, PVAMU. I got to hear what you got. Oh, we finally got something. We got action. Oh, they warming up still. Southerns again. Let's get that a grade. Alright. So, they were sounding good for the majority, but when we got to that tuba break, that's when they lost me. Alright, sound selections 5, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm going to give them a 9. They got a 44. There was some couple other parts up in there when they can spruce it up just a tad bit too, right before they went to the tuba break and just right after the tuba break. The tuba break itself, it was good for when it first started, but then it started getting off track. But almost a perfect. Almost a perfect. Moving on. Southern's 4 up in this battle. But we're not going to grade anything that they can't respond to, apparently. So if they respond with 2, that's 2 for them. That's only 2 rounds we're grading officially. So. Shout out to the Woodwinds though. Alrighty, let's get at a grade. Interesting response. Alright. So, song selections 5, powers 10, articulation, I'm gonna give them a 9, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. So they got a 43 for that first one. So Southern official won round 1. What I would say about peer review with that one, they got to work on attacking together. That you know what I'm saying? That part counts. You know, they just need to be sprucing up just a tad bit. Also, making sure that they blend together as well as a band, because there was some bands that was either some horns that were just sneaking in. So that kind of hurt them just a tad bit, a little bit with the tuba break as well, but for the majority it was straight. I would just want them just to fix those little small things in that. Okay? Moving on.
There is no better place to be at Southern University for Homecoming 2025. There's no other homecoming like it. In 1 minute.
I'm so sorry.
Whew. Southern, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, Southern, man. That's all I gotta say. They coming with that crucialness right now. I can say Southern really put some work in. I think they really sat back and really fixed a lot of problems. You can tell that they kind of sound very balanced for the majority, you know, That's one thing I would say. I can tell that they've been working hard. I can tell. I mean, like everybody's pretty much signing defined for the majority. So, mm, I mean, hey, Southern's cooking. Southern's cooking. All right, moving on.
Freshman Imani Nicole Nissom and her royal escort, Dylan Harmon. Miss Imani Nicole Nissom is a freshman majoring in nursing from Miami, Florida, which is a proud daughter of Elon Nissom and Nikita Bennett. Imani is a 2025 graduate of Miami Northwestern Senior High School. Now at State University of American Excellence. A member of Paul's Miami and an AWS
Alright, let's get at a grade. So, song selection is 5, power is 10, articulation, I'm gonna give them a 9. Arrangements 10. Cleanness, I'm gonna give them an 8. Alright. So they got a 42 on that one. Alright, so one thing I would say about that is that, you know, the runs need to be a tad bit cleaner. There was some parts when the bands need to attack together. There was some parts when the annotations went together as well. Alright. One thing I would say too, even when it came down to the tuba split, it's a strong arrangement, don't get me wrong. It's a strong arrangement. I just feel like they really need to dissect the small things because there's a lot of things going on in the song. They're going to have to take it step by step to make it sound cleaner. Okay? Not taking away from the arrangement, but I just feel like it just needs to be fixed a tad bit better. Alright? Moving on.
Witherspoon and Trisha Baptiste Witherspoon, 1989 graduate of Southern University. Northern Side Range in South.
Alright. Bring it back then. Bring it back then, Southern. Alright. Let's get that a grade. So, sound selections 5, powers a 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. They got a 44 in that. What I would say is that they're gonna have to work on just particular parts. They got to sprucing up on the nicks and crannies of that song. You know, just right off the edges on there. Like even when it came to the tuba break, I think the first or second tuba break, one of the two, but there was like a little run with the high brass and it didn't sound clean. So you kind of get what I'm getting at. Just the little small parts need to be fixed. Almost a perfect. Moving on. Alright. So, sound selections 5, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm going to give them a 9. So they got a 44 in that one. They did fairly good close to the end. I just felt like it was some parts in the beginning of the song that needed to be worked on just a tad bit. That they got to work on just getting it sounding clean, like as far as attacking. They have like an attacking issue. So I think if they can get that going, I think they'd be straight. But almost a perfect. Not bad. Moving on. This is Southern's spirit song for the football team. give that a grade. Song selection is 4 because it's one of the Spirit songs. Power is 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanest I'm gonna give them a 9. There was some parts they know that they was skating through. Even though y'all play this all the time, y'all can't skate through y'all arrangement. So they got a 43, my bad, not a 44, but a 43. So they can't skate through your arrangement. Don't do that. Moving on.
My vocals without sound.
The CEO of California Medical and Dental and the president of the SU Worldwide Club. Honorary captains are Damon Rutledge, Southern University System Board of Supervisors, Athletics Chair and Vice President and General Counsel of CSRS, Dr. Garland Green, the Cardiovascular Institute of the South.
Alright, PV's gonna close us out. Alrighty, let me give that a grade. Man, it took them a while, but they got one on them. They got one from me, and they was able to capture that that 4th round. They was able to win that 4th round for themselves. It's not bad, not bad at all. All right. So what I would say, if I was to critique just a tad bit, just work on making sure y'all don't outdo y'all pocket. Stay in your pocket. Make sure y'all attack together. But for the majority, everything was clean with that. No true complaints on that. But I enjoyed that from PV. All right. So, who won 0 quarter? Okay. Who won 0 quarter? Oh man, we talking about a significant change. One thing I would say, as far as Southern is concerned, Southern has been handling business throughout the majority of the battle. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little quick calculation and tell you who won for a second. Give me a second. Alrighty, so 0 quarter. Who won 0 quarter? Okay, well I gotta give the edge to Southern University. Alright, I gotta give the edge to Southern University, but this is not the end of the battle. We got a grade 5th quarter too. Alright, so this going into 5th quarter. Alright, so these grades are going to carry into that. But as far as the lead is concerned, Southern is up by 5 points in 0 quarter. Southern is up by 5 points. There was a tad bit ahead also because they started off with extra songs too, but we was grading initially PV responses. PV was able to capitalize on their 4th song compared to all the other songs Southern was up. So I gotta say that, yeah, Southern is up by 5 points in this battle. Okay? So, if you made it this far in the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It means so much to your boy. One thing I would also say, I also have a membership program. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I've been kind of preaching it throughout the majority of this season. So if you want to know what that's about, please click on the link above. With that membership program, it just helps me bring out more content. Also, it helps me try to afford YouTube Premium. You will get certain perks and benefits, etc., with that as well. So you know, be a member. You know, you get a chance to look at more content through a different lens. So if you're alumni, you want to see throwback battles, etc., please consider being a member. Be a part of this family. Unlock that content if you have it. It's only $2 a month. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, you feel like you will feel generous, hit that thank you tab below as well. That I would definitely appreciate as well. So even if it's just a one-time donation, I would give you a special shout out in the next video. Alright, so with that being said, we're in 5th quarter. Okay, nothing has truly changed with the scale, but we want to change the song selection into 10. Okay, so that just gives them the extra incentive on what they need to utilize as far as how strong their songs are going to be. So I just give them that extra incentive on that. Okay, so one thing I would add into this battle, just to throw that out there, is that I do not know what to expect from this battle. Again, you know, this is them playing in the rain. So, you know, things can change over time. I don't know, again, what to expect. But, you know, hopefully, you know, we can get a lot of, you know, good feedback from this from both bands. They can both play their hearts out. Now, granted, there's no woodwinds now, okay? Because it's raining. So, it's going to be straight brass. So, it gets real when it's raining outside. All right? So, but, yeah, the same scale, song selection, everything is pretty much the same. All right? But just it's worth 10. All right? So, I want to remind y'all, and I'm going to shut up just to throw that out there. There's no favoritism involved, so don't get in your feelings. All right? Don't get in your feelings about it. This is just me giving my fair, honest critique on the battle. Okay? And again, I'm not grading how strong the arrangement is. I'm grading the execution of the arrangement. Some people get butthurt when they band lose or they can't have a decisive winner or whatever, you know. But again, at the end of the day, this is for me to give it fair, honest for both bands, okay? So, there it is, raw and uncut. Alright, so I'm going to shut up. Let's get into the action. I did a little bit of skipping because they was playing an alma mater, okay? So we're going to start after the alma mater. Let's paraphrase alma mater. let's get that a grade. Alright. So, song selections 10, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10. Cleanness, I'm going to give them a 9. Almost a perfect. I feel like they could be a little bit better when it comes down to executing certain parts of the song. But for the majority of the part, it was good. They just need to work on it, just some small runs here and there. Alright, moving on. Alright, Southern, let's see what you got. Playing in the rain get the best out of you. Song selections 10, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. Almost a perfect. There was some parts at the beginning of the song that can be a tad bit cleaner. But when it got close to the middle, close to the end, they started hitting more. So almost a perfect. They just need to work on the small things on that. One thing I would say that's probably holding them back is the rain. All right. I think that's something to think about too as far as going into this. Both bands are going into a handicap. All right. Sometimes the rain, you can, not see anybody with your peripheral because of the rain. Is you looking down sometimes, and it can get bad. Even if your finger's on the valve and your finger slipped off the valve, you kind of get what I'm getting at. So you playing against a lot of handicaps. So I'm not expecting it to be as clean as it should be. So just throwing that out there. let's get at a grade. Alright, so sound selection is 10, power is 10, articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness, I'm going to give them an 8. Some parts that need to be sprucing up on there. Again, they're playing with a handicap, but I would say that there was some parts that they need to sprucing up as far as the middle, the runs especially the runs. There was some small attacking issues as well, but mostly the runs. There was a couple parts in there when the runs were not syncing up with the arrangement, if that makes sense. That was dragging the arrangement because they couldn't get it all out. So you kind of get what I'm getting at. All right, moving on.
This is what the...
Some kids sick today. Alright. Let's get out a grade. Sound selection is 10, power is 10, articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness is a 9. Alright. So it's just some small parts in there that just need just to sprucing up just a little bit. Just in there. Again, handicap. Right. Alright. But for the majority, it sounded good. Almost a perfect. Good job. This is going to be a long fifth. Sit tight. Okay, PV. Alright. Sound selection is 10. Power is 10. articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness, I'm going to give them a 9. What I would say about that, I could also give them a 10 too. Something I would put on my hidden list. Almost a perfect, very entertaining arrangement. I can tell that can have the mindset of being very great. They just got to execute it perfectly. And I think I'll probably be losing my shit. I ain't even gonna lie to you. But it was very strong. That's a strong arrangement for PV, in my opinion. Alright? I think that was pretty good. Very good from PV. Wasn't expecting that from them. But that was nice. That was nice. Moving on.
Southern.
Did y'all hear that run? Oh my gosh. Give that shit a Ric Flair moment. Woo! Oh my gosh, Southern. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yo. Yo. Dog, that was crazy. That was nuts. That was nuts. Moving on. get that a grade. Alright. Sound selection is 10. Power is 10. Articulation is 10. Arrangement is 10. Cleanness, I'm gonna give them an 8. What I feel about that, I just feel like they try to outdo their pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know sometimes it can get intimidating when you see a giant in front of you, but you still got to sound clean. You got to play in pocket. You know, that's one thing. Then, you know, you have the tuba break. The first tuba break was not as clean as it should have been. Just the first one, you know. Second one, everything else was pretty much hidden. My problem is that they have to really play in pocket. Don't try to outdo your pocket. I feel like there's a lot of people who say, oh, watch me kill this, watch me kill this. Like, I gotta stay in pocket. Gotta stay in pocket. You know, that's one of my biggest things for this band is that, you know, I think they're intimidated very easily. So I will hope that they can rectify that issue in the future band battles that they have anymore. Okay? But that's my initial thought process as far as them entering this battle. I feel like they can hit it a tad bit better, you know? Moving on. Think they finna head out. I don't blame them though. Don't get sick. Southern. Oh man, they all one Super Saiyan in this thing. Oh man. Southern with it, dog. Southern with it. Oh man, this is entertaining. Woo. Yes, indeed. Oh man, that was nice. Moving on. I'm guessing PV's marching out. So Southern's gonna play us out. So we're not gonna grade anything against PV after this. Okay, we're just gonna grade it strictly Southern. Just to see how they do. One second. Hold on one Whew, Southern. Alright. Song selection is 10, power is 10, articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. There was some parts up in there that needed to be sprucing up just a tad bit. One thing I would say is that they just have to just fine tune the small parts. High brass especially. Alright. Moving on. They're probably gonna close us out with 3 songs. That's what it looked like. Sound selection is 10. Power is 10. Articulation, I'm giving them a 9. Arrangement's 10. Cleanness, I'm giving them a 9. Alright? Only reason why I gave them a 9 in articulation, when it comes down to singular notes, T, you know, you got to make sure that you attack together too, you know. So that was one thing, but also tubas at the end. That's why it kind of got messy at the end. I just felt like if they can just play together close to the end and not sound muddy, it would be perfect. All right, moving on.
Don't do it! Somebody go tell Doc not to say.
Oh, they're coming down to play? Grade. Sound selection's 10. Power's 10. Articulation's 10. Arrangement is 10. Cleanness, I'm going to give them a 9. Some parts just need to be rounded off a little bit better than what it was in that. Almost a perfect. It was some parts that had their hit and misses in that song. So, you know, it was cool for the majority. They just need to sprucing up on the small things, and then I think that'll be good. All right. Moving on. Are they about to play? Oh, they're about to play. Okay. Let's get at a grade. Sound selection is 10. Power is 10. Articulation is 10. Arrangements 10. Cleanness, I'm gonna give them an 8. Okay? Some parts that need to be sprucing up just a tad bit. In the beginning, them attacking together, that's a pivotal thing. And then we have some muddy parts here and there as well in that. So my thing is this: if we're not gonna attack together in the beginning, yeah, that hurt them. That hurt them. All right, moving on. Southern's pen, bruh. Southern's pen, bruh. But sound selection is 10, power is 10, articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. I got a 49 on that. Like I said earlier, they just gotta fine tune the small parts in their songs, and that'd be straight. Okay, I heard it sound cleaner. That's all I gotta say. You know. So they just need to fix the little small parts, and then I think they'll be okay. Moving on. I would have marched out. I'm just being real.
Gary, go tell him. Come on, Dr. Zach. Yeah, fucking anyway, they hold you. What the fuck you trying to prove?
Okay. I like that one from them. Good job, PV. One thing I would say about that piece is that they have to make sure that they don't undo their pocket. I think they'd be okay. But for the majority, it sounds good. No true complaints about that piece. No true complaints about that piece. Sounds very good. Alright. So they was able to win one round. They was able to win one round. Alright. Fairly. Alright. Moving on. Alright. Let's get at a grade. Song selections 10, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them an 8. Alright, we got a 48. Alright, so they need to work on those runs, number one. And then close to the end, somebody came in just a tad bit early. Alright, so very strong arrangement. Very, very strong arrangement. I just think that they need to make sure they really focus on cleaning up those runs. Alright. Was not expecting that from them, but it was pretty good. Moving on. Alrighty. Let's get at a grade. Song selections 10, powers 10, articulations 10, arrangements 10, cleanness, I'm gonna give them a 9. Alright? There was some phrases in there I felt like it could be a tad bit cleaner. Playing in tone is something serious. You know, I don't care what key it is, you got to make sure you still play within the ensemble with the right tone. Alright? So it kind of threw it off just a tad bit in some parts of that department, but I just feel like there's also some other small attacking issues there. But for the majority, it was straight. Almost a perfect. Alright, it looked like Southern's finna close us out.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and video downloads. So
Trumpets. Sound selection is 10, power is 10, articulation is 10, arrangement is 10, cleanness is a 9. High brass, ladies and gentlemen. High brass. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Without the arrangement, it's the high brass. Fix that. That's all I gotta say. That is all I have to say. Alrighty. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Trumpets. Did it again. My gosh. Alright, moving on. So, who won this battle? Okay. Very interesting battle. It had its twists and turns, but we got to figure out who won this battle, alright, for fifth quarter, alright? And then we can calculate everything like we need to, alright? So, give me a quick second. Alright. So, who won this battle? I had to do my calculations on my end. So I gotta give it to Southern University. Southern won fifth quarter as well. Alright. It was not a close battle. All right, it was not a close battle at all. All right, it was a clean sweep because they beat them in 0 and they beat them in 5th. So it was a clean sweep, ladies and gentlemen. Clean sweep. I'm gonna tell you why Southern won, and I'm gonna give my fair honest critique. All right. The reason why Southern won is because they had a cleaner sound over PV. It was some stuff that they had an initial edge over PV just in going into this battle as far as just staying consistent. They had more consistency than Perryview, if that makes sense. All right. High brass needs to be worked on with Southern. Yes, they got to work on that. They can't slip on that. There was some parts that they need to work on as far as runs is concerned, but Southern did win this battle fair and square. Now, when we look at Perryview, there was some hits and misses. There was a lot more misses than hits. One thing I would say is that they have to really thoroughly work on attacking together. Understand how to play in the pocket, play within the band ensemble. You can't get easily intimidated when you're going against a bigger band than you. You know, that's one of the things I feel like hurt them in this battle the most was the fact that they was outdoing their pocket. And if they just would have simply just stayed together in their pocket, I think they would have been okay. They had some tough arrangements as far as articulation is concerned and them hitting certain runs. They got to work on those pieces, okay? I feel like PV can do a whole lot more if they can just really focus on just cleaning up a lot of their songs, the majority of the songs, all right? I think they would be okay, all right? That's me personally. I just feel like Perryview can work on the small things, all right? So, with that being said, Southern won this battle, all right? That's my verdict. If you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It means so much to me. Also, by the way, please consider being a member if you thought about that. Be a member. And on a side note, I want to give a special thanks to my channel member who became a member not too long ago. So just want to give a special shout out to her. But if you do want to be a part of this family, please do. I will give you a special shout out like I just did a couple seconds ago. So with that being said, I did enough rambling, man. I'm finna get up out of here. Deuces.